airways for coastal traffic, and my own otter amphibian, which was parked on dry land at the head of the concrete slipway. It was almost 10 o'clock, and I went into the bathroom and turned on the shower. There was a quick knock on the outside door, and I wrapped a towel around my waist and returned to the bedroom. Gudrid Rasmussen looked in. "You are ready for coffee, Mr. Martin?" she said in Danish. She was a small, rather hippie girl of 25 or so, a Greenlander born and bred, mainly Danish by blood, which showed in the fair hair plaited around her head, with just a touch of Eskimo in the high cheekbones and almond-shaped eyes. Most of the year she spent housekeeping for her grandfather on his sheep farm at Sandvig, about 100 miles down the coast. But during the summer she worked as a chambermaid at the hotel. "Make it tea this morning, Gudrid," I said. "I'm feeling nostalgic." She shook her head in reproof. "You look awful. Too much work is not good for a man." Before I could reply, the sound of an aeroplane engine shattered the stillness of the morning, and I went to the window in time to see an airmacchi flip neatly in across the harbour and drop flaps to land on the airstrip beyond the canning factory. "Here comes your boyfriend." "Arnie?" There was a touch of colour in her cheeks as she crossed to the window. "Any girl is Arnie's girl, Mr. Martin. I hold no special rights." It would have been pointless to try and pretend otherwise, and we stood there together for a moment in silence, watching the wheels come down beneath the skis with which the airmacchi was fitted. "I thought he was going to take those off and put his floats back on," I said. "The skis?" She shrugged. "He's got an extension of his service contract with the American mining company at Malamusk on the edge of the ice cap. Up there the only place to land is the snowfield." His landing was good. Not excellent, but then we all have our off days. The airmacchi rolled along the airstrip and disappeared from view behind the canning factory. Gudrid smiled brightly. "I'll bring your tea while you have a shower. Then I'll order breakfast for you. I'll change the bed later." The door closed behind her, and I went back into the bathroom and got under the shower. It was nice and hot and very relaxing, and after a while my headache started to go, which was a good thing considering that I had a 2.5-hour flight ahead of me. I pulled on my old silk dressing gown and went back into the bedroom, toweling my hair briskly. In my absence, Gudrid had brought in a tray, and the tea, when I poured it, was scalding. I finished the first cup and was pouring another when the door burst open and Arnie Fassberg blew in. He was about my height, which was a little under 6 feet, but the resemblance stopped there. My hair was dark, his so fair as to be almost white, his face open, mine closed and saturnine. As yet he had not been used by life, or at least had been used kindly, and his forehead was as unlined as any child's. By birth an Icelander, he had perhaps the most incredible appetite for women that I've ever encountered, and like all Don Juans, he was an incurable romantic, falling in and out of love with astounding frequency. He presented a slightly theatrical figure in his fur-lined boots and old flying jacket, and he tossed a canvas hold-all into the corner and moved to the table. "I thought you might have left. I've probably broken all records from Söndre Strömford to get here." "Any particular reason?" He helped himself to tea using my cup. "You're flying supplies out to that American film actor, aren't you?" He was referring to Jack DeForge, who had arrived unexpectedly in Gotthard early in June in his motor yacht Stella. Since then, he'd been cruising the coast, fishing and hunting, and I'd been flying out supplies to wherever he was at regular intervals. "Why the interest?" "I've got a passenger for you. She got off the midnight jet from Copenhagen at Söndre. Wanted me to take her straight to Deforge, but I couldn't oblige. Have to be at Malamusk by noon with some spare parts they've had specially flown in from the States. Where is he, by the way?" "Somewhere north of Disco in the region of Narcosit, as I last heard. Looking for polar bear." There was genuine astonishment on his face. "At this time of the year? You must be joking." "About the only thing outside of a Tibetan yak that he's never laid low." "You never know. He could hit lucky. I've seen